It's hard to define somebody as a left brain or a right brain person because I truly feel like I'm both. I've taken so many of those like dumb BuzzFeed quizzes and stuff, but like, it just doesn't reflect who I actually am or how I actually am, because I'll be super into like my technical stuff and I'll just be super focused on engineering stuff or on math stuff, and then all of a sudden like my brain just needs a break from that and I need to use like a different part of my brain and need to be creative. So for me, I'm not necessarily a left-brained or a right-brained person. I think that at times I'm focused more on one side of the brain versus the other, but I really need the other one to counterbalance my brain as a whole. So I was born in California and then I lived in Berlin, Germany for 5 or 6 years when I was young, and then I moved back to California to start grade school. My dad is German, so that's why we lived in Berlin, and my mom is Mexican. So back home in California, a lot of my family lives very closely to where I live, and so I would always be going to my grandma's house and eating like a big bowl of like caldo de pollo with some tortillas and beans and just all kinds of stuff, and it was a very fluid environment for me, and people would just come over to say hi. Like nobody ever called to say they were coming. Everyone just invited themselves over and would just ring the doorbell, and people would be always welcome over at her house. And I would see my dad's side of the family. I wouldn't see them as frequently, but I would see them occasionally. And eating dinner with my grandparents on my dad's side is like, you have a place setting, you have like 2 or 3 knives and forks on each side. Like everything's very proper. There's tapered candles, there's music playing in the background, there's like just such a more structured environment. And so for me, growing up around 2 completely different cultures really, I think, is probably what shaped me into how I am, because engineering is a lot more critical thinking and a lot more, you gotta be right about certain things, you have to be precise. Going into art and engineering was something I felt that would maybe balance both sides of my time and what I do. And so engineering always just was something like natural for me. Like I always just saw myself going into that. That's something that I just always wanted to pursue. And art was just something I did on the side. But then I realized like if I procrastinate by drawing and I procrastinate by messing around on Photoshop, like why shouldn't I choose the thing that I'm procrastinating to fill my actual time with? When I was little, I would always just like mix different soaps and different deodorants and different like lotions and foods together and just like put them in the fridge and see what happened, or microwave it and see what happened. And so I've always just kind of been curious about things, and I think that growing up, I always loved science because I felt like I was learning about the things that I was always so curious about. And for me, engineering is a way to bring science and craft together, because you can use everything that you've learned to actually make stuff. And that's what I want to do with engineering, and that's why I'm passionate about engineering. Art is a means of expression, and I find that it's sometimes difficult for me to express myself with words. So using art as a medium to translate emotions or feelings or thoughts that go through my mind is how I can express myself sometimes. So for me, art is an outlet to de-stress, to take a break from engineering things, but it's also a way for me to express myself. And there's no other way that I can do that besides picking up a pencil and drawing something on a piece of paper sometimes. So sometimes it even helps me realize things that I'm thinking about. My thoughts are always all over the place, and I have a lot of thoughts, and so like sometimes when I draw, or even if I'm just like messing around on the computer, they help me guide my thoughts and realize certain ideas that I even have. So art inspires me every day. My advice to somebody deciding between different majors or different career paths is honestly just to, it's hard because like I could be studying, I'm studying art and design and chemical engineering, but I could be studying like linguistics and be perfectly happy as well. I have interests all over the place. I love so many things. So for me, it's hard to give advice to help somebody make that decision, because it's really something that only you can make. But just keep in mind that, like, nowadays, a lot of people change career paths later in their life, so you're not going to be stuck doing one thing for the rest of your life. Life doesn't happen the way you expect it to happen. So even if you study one thing and decide later you hate that one thing, that's okay. It happens. Like, learn from your experiences, and that's what'll make you grow as a person. Choose your career based off what you want to do, not what your parents want you to do, not what your friends want you to do, but what you truly love. It doesn't, like, in the long term, it doesn't matter what other people have to say if what you end up doing makes you happy. That's the ultimate thing, like happiness.